I'm Angie Tolpin, and I'm here with my good friend Jen, and we are just going to share a little bit about Jen's new book that is coming out this week called TheUnveiledWife. And as you know, I've been trying to do a few more book reviews and just suggesting things, but it's always a joy when I get to know the author in real life just because we're friends, and then to be able to just talk about what God's doing in their life. So I'm excited that Jen's here. We're here in my house, and if you hear kids like running around, it's because that's life at the Tolpin house. So this is Jennifer Smith.
Hello.
And I am excited to talk about the behind the scenes, writing as a mom, and what it's like to relive some of the hard things. One of the things I appreciate about your book is how transparent it is, and you talk about the sin that you struggled with in your marriage, and just that wrestling, right? And being willing to go to those dark places and wrestle and to have that unconditional love from your husband, and to be in those turmoil points where you were thinking about giving up too, which is a hard place to be. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, writing this book was really hard for me because I've always loved writing. I love to pursue writing and everything, but never would have thought I would be talking about my marriage in a book. And once God asked me to do that, I just felt this huge responsibility to fulfill and be obedient to Him and what He was calling me to do. But in order to do that, I did have to go back to those hard places in our marriage, early on in our marriage, that were just painful, emotionally draining, you know. And so in order to write them down, I had to go back to them and really evaluate, well, what were we struggling with, and why did it play out like that, and what was God trying to teach me through that? All while my son was running circles around me. You know?
Right. Yeah. Sanctifying at its finest.
It was awesome. So that was challenging. And I think I wrote this book like 3 or 4 times now, just because I really wanted to refine it and give everyone a story that was worthy of reading. And the other thing is I had to get my husband's permission. And I know not everybody is willing to just put everything out there.
Right.
But my husband's been really supportive in being transparent and being willing to share openly about the things that we've struggled with. And so, but even in that, going back to those things that we struggled and wrestled with was really hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you talk about in your book the topic of jealousy. And a lot of us, when we think of the word jealousy, the first thing that we think of would be jealousy between women, right? But you talk about it. Yeah, it does. But you talk about it in regards to marriage and having an envious heart towards what your husband was living and what he was experiencing in life, and being able to work even, or different things like that. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, first let me back up just a little bit. When I first got married, I thought I was close to perfect. And I don't mean that in like a boastful way. I had this idea of who I was. Mm-hmm. And then I got married, and we're in close quarters, and we're, basically reflecting each other's character, because everything I do has a response from my husband. Mm-hmm. And I realized quickly that I was hurting him, but I didn't want it to be my fault, so I started blaming him for things. And that's when I started realizing the heart issues that I really did struggle with. So before, I never would have considered that I struggled with jealousy. But after being married for a few years, I realized there's a problem. I would get jealous from the opportunities that my husband had, the work schedule that he had, the people he got to hang out with, or jealous of his personality. He was really outgoing, and I found it so hard to be able to just sit one-on-one with someone and converse. And so, I really wrestled with jealousy a lot. And I even mentioned at the end of each chapter in this book, there's a behind the veil section. And I don't mention a lot about motherhood since this is a marriage book, but I do mention that the jealousy flared up again once I became a mom, and that was so hard. I found myself sitting in the bedroom with this infant who's crying, and my son was colicky, so it was even more hard. Intense. And my husband would leave to go to work, and all of a sudden I become jealous that he was, on the road going to work for several hours and then coming home to us, and I couldn't get past it for weeks, and that was so hard.
Did you feel abandoned?
Oh, I felt a whole lot of things.
A whole lot of things, yeah.
Abandonment.
I think a lot of women can relate to that too, but I think to be able to pinpoint the specific sin and to be able to recognize that in yourself and to be able to confess that to one another and to try to hold one another accountable to it, that's when change happens, right? That's the first step, is being willing to acknowledge your sin in that. But, as wives, we deal with all kinds of sins in our home. Like you were saying, we reflect one another because that's conflict, right? I'm a sinner, you're a sinner. relationship is. And so it's interesting, this concept of being unveiled is really the theme throughout, right? And we have an event coming up March 14th,
which Be Unveiled.
We're real excited about it because it's going to open up the topic of being unveiled. Not just talking about being unveiled in your marriage and being honest about your struggles, your temptations to sin, and your sins towards one another, but also just heart attitudes, things that no one knows except for yourself and God, you know, and coming to that place of real honesty with yourself first. I think that that's a huge key. But we're going to take that and talk about it in other relationships, right?
Friendships, motherhood. I mean, you name it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And Angie's going to be up there on stage with me along with a few other friends, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. And we're going to be webcasting it, right, Jen? So why don't you share a little bit about how they'll be able to find us?
Yeah, so I'm going to be sharing a blog post basically on TheUnveiledWife.com that will talk about the event, but you can register already at TheUnveiledEventbrite.com if you want to check that out. Yeah. And I'm just asking people to register so we kind of know how many we're expecting, but I really see this as a community event where you can pull your sisters together, pull other wives you know or mothers you know together, and get in front of the computer, watch it. It's an hour long. From 4 to 5, and then talk about it and talk about the things that we bring up. So,
and you're gonna have some stuff to give out as well. Some
there'll be
other
some giveaways and some challenges and discussion questions. And so I think it'll be really fun and just kind of a unique way to celebrate the book launch and everything that basically what it means to be unveiled and get that message out.
Right. And I know that I can speak for the other friends that are going to be there. Lisa Jacobson from Club 31 Women and Kara Chuck from Chuckies.com, right? We're going to be up there celebrating with Jen because we love her.
Real life friends.
We're real life friends. And it's just going to be a joy to be able to speak to other women about even our friendships as well, you know, and how being unveiled and being real and supporting one another because we all have different spiritual gifts and different things like that. And like, it's exciting when God brings you into community with all different kinds of people, but to be able to support the different people for their different spiritual giftings. And so I'm excited because God's giving you a gift in being able to be a connoisseur of words, right? Yeah. And to be vulnerable. Yeah. I mean, really, that's where it starts, right? Being willing to be transparent and share about the hardships. And, you know, I've talked a lot about on Lainey Lacey this last month, especially about being purposeful on social media and being careful with your words and understanding the importance of being a light and being ambassadors for Christ in all of our relationships. And that includes the social media world. And one of the things that, you know, is as a writer, I don't want to add to the noise. I don't want to add to people being distracted from God, but to point them to God. Right. And so oftentimes I don't like doing book reviews or like suggesting books because really the best book is the Bible. Yeah,
absolutely.
But the interesting thing though is that all throughout Scripture is stories of people's lives and how God was the redeemer of the hurt, of the pain, of the ugly, of the sin. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this book is because it's another woman's story. It's another sister's story about marriage and the ugliness and the goodness and the grace and all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? All in one thing. So I hope you'll join us on March 14th, and you can find out more about Jen at TheUnveiledWife.com, and she has a Facebook page, Instagram. She's really fun to follow on Instagram. And I hope you have a great night. Thanks.
Bye.
Right?
Why don't you take off your shoes and stay on?
I was telling him about his jacket.
Guys, the video's on.
I'm way cuter with my shoes on. You should see my socks. Although, yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Does it look like I'm wearing shoes?
No.
Do you see our feet in the video?
Yep.
Take them off.
Shoes off.
I'm way cuter with my boots on.
Yeah, but you also have a no shoe policy,
Mom,
especially on the road.
I know, and I always break my own.
Camera's on. The neighborhood.
Oh, Charlie horse!
Okay, wait, I got the worst Charlie horse last night. I literally was holding my leg up, screaming. No, Aaron was like, "What's going on?" He woke up, he's like freaking out. And then we got the arnica oil out.
And you were okay.
I was okay. And then I could breathe again.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say.
Cute socks. Where'd you get those?
Oh, I got those at
Like
Zoomies.
Camera's on.
I've been wearing those all day
Just
long.
kidding. Actually, they don't smell at
No,
all.
they don't smell.
Yeah.
I don't sweat. I
Do you put tea
sparkle.
bags in your shoes?
That's a
I
good
read
idea.
somewhere that, or I saw a video of
It absorbs moisture.
and smell.
That's genius. Put mitt ones in.
It wasn't my
Lemon.
idea, but I'll take credit. No, I'm just kidding.